Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. I'd like to please start our Q&A and hope those of you, please feel free to come down closer. Please welcome Director Ofir Raul Graizer, and let's give him a big round of applause for the wonderful film. We're just going to lower these house lights just a little bit, please. Thank you. And just a little bit of stage light. We're going to go in the center here. So we are actually recording this as well. So if you have friends and you love the film, please tell them. It's going to be streaming for an entire week, and then they'll be able to hear this interview. So I'm just going to start for the recording and say, hi, this is Pamela Lavitt, Director of Arts and Ideas and the Seattle Jewish Film Festival, and we're so happy to be here for the 28th annual, and we're so proud to have Ofir Raul Graizer here, our closing night filmmaker. So with a big round of applause, we're going to start. So I want to leave some time for Q&A, but I want to first ask a couple questions because I have so many, and I hope you'll indulge me. So I know that The CAKEMAKER was really your first feature film, and you won so many amazing awards for it. You were the Israeli submission in 2017 to the Academy Awards. And in some ways, I think people started labeling you immediately as sort of the Israeli art house, filmmaker, at least the style, with very psychologically complex, melodrama of desire and trauma all wrapped up. I'm just wondering if you could explain a little bit if you agree with that assessment or not.
I mean, I don't really have a choice. It's like, once I make a film, it's no longer mine. It's really removed from my hands, and it belongs to other people. So, immediately. Also, like The CAKEMAKER, okay, it was first film, and already then it was labeled, and I would get some offers to make movies, for example. I would get, screenplays, and it all had, it was either LGBT, Israel and Germany, which is the themes in the CAKEMAKER, for those of you who haven't seen it. So, today, especially in the film world, in the film business also, it's all about labels. It's just you do something, immediately they label you something. It's like if I try, let's say, if I have a movie and I'm trying to get into some kind of, competition or system or film festival, so, oh, we already have an Israeli movie, so it's like you're immediately one of those. So my films are always, labeled in this category, but it's also my fault, in a way, because these are the movies I'm making. But what I'm trying to do in my films, like thematically, I always try to create characters that don't want to be defined. They don't want to be labeled. Like for me, this couple, Iris and Yotam, they're like not Israeli. They're like in Israel, but they're kind of living in a world of their own, I mean, Eli's a whole story because Eli ran away from Israel because he had like this traumatic childhood, and he was, in a way, very disappointed from the country also, in a way, which abandoned him. The system abandoned him. His father was abusive. He was a monster, but he was a high-ranking police officer and a war hero. So nobody messed with him, and that child was abandoned to wander the streets and survive. So yeah.
I mean, you kind of led me to my next question, which is that it does seem that the idea of trauma as, a psychological kind of complex, system of secrecy and speaking and not speaking seems to be very much a part of the films that you've made so far. And I'm just wondering, as an Israeli, obviously, who's lived in Berlin and lives now in LA, as a gay man, I'm just sort of wondering, or as an immigrant in many other ways, is it a personal reflection on trauma from any of those positions personally, or is it more of an outward-looking sense of wanting to explore that theme?
It's very personal, of course. I mean, it's really like, I think, being a minority, whatever kind of minority, if you were a Jew in a non-Jewish, area, if you're gay, growing up in a very patriotic and machoistic city or country, or if you are a Palestinian, you know, living like an Israeli Palestinian living in Tel Aviv, you know, being a minority sucks. And trauma is like almost like a part of the body of being a minority, because you're either being discriminated against, you're either being judged, you're being categorized, you're being your life is affected on the most, you know, real in real ways. In real ways, you can not get a job because of who you are. You can earn less money if you are a woman than the same job, but the man makes more money, you know? So it's like, I think trauma is always a part of it. And I think that, you know, especially like Jewish people, if we're in a Jewish film festival, they know like a trauma is kind of part of our DNA, you know? If it's been prosecuted, hunted, you know, murdered, I mean, not just the Holocaust and the pogroms, but also, you know, throughout all history, you know, being segregated and being thrown into a ghetto, you know, everyone is living inside the city, and then the Jews have to live on the outskirts, you know. I mean, it's not always like that, but in many places are. So it really is like in our DNA, this trauma, and the political and the personal, they intertwine.
So obviously, I'm curious a little bit about the title America. Because the film obviously starts in Israel, and America, it takes place very little in America. But what does America mean to you in this film? And is it something about conflicted identity, the nihilism that some younger folks feel about Israel and leaving for other countries? Perhaps that's part of your journey. But what does America mean to you in this film?
I mean, for me, like America is it's like a term. It's like a definition of a different reality that someone can create. When I grew up, America was like I grew up in Israel, and most of the movies and the TV shows and the music we got were American. We had very few European stuff, you know, and only one TV channel. So, you know, most of the content we had, and of course, American movies was the movies I grew up on when I was, a young child. My passion for films and for storytelling came from big American movies, which were distributed, you know, all over the world, like the classic, all the. Star Wars and Goonies and Gremlins and the Spielberg movies, the George Lucas movies, the Robert Zemeckis movies, you know. So, but it was always this distant thing because it never had something to do with my life. It was always a fantasy because I haven't been to the United States as a child. The first time I went was 5 years ago, was the first time I was in the US. So America was always a fantasy, a land beyond the ocean, where dreams come true and, everyone can be themselves, and, the American dream, which is, it's a very nice ideas, and maybe 20 or 30 years ago there was such a thing called the American dream, but that doesn't exist anymore. I mean, today, like, if you come into America to build a life and become something, you can't afford it. It's just too expensive, I mean, even Starbucks, which is the worst coffee, it costs like $5. So,
wait a minute, you're in Seattle. You're not allowed to say that.
So, I know. I just found out today. You have the first
Dancing
Starbucks.
Goats is our sponsor, so that's okay. Continue.
Okay. So Starbucks is just bad. So America was like a fantasy and something distant, something far away, and like a source of dreaming and yearning and longing, and that's what it is in this film for the three characters.
Well, speaking of three characters, it seems that you have sort of a love triangle in The CAKEMAKER. I don't know how many folks have seen The CAKEMAKER. It's an incredible film, and I think you can see it on Amazon Prime and many other avenues. Delicious. But of course, you have a delicious love triangle in that one, surrounding incredible pastry and an Israeli couple. And here you have also a sort of homoerotic relationship going on between Eli and the couple and their triangulation. And I'm just wondering, what are you saying in this particular film? Because the queerness of this film is so subtle, right? And so how did you decide to have this triangle again?
Yeah, I mean, I don't see it as a triangle. Like, for me, this film, I mean, the relationship, it's like someone goes away and the other takes its place, and then he goes away and he goes back. So it's more like the absence, in a way, of the third. I mean, of course, it is a triangle, but like, I see it in a different perspective. I mean, it's for me, it's more like a story told from 3 different perspectives. Like, it starts with Eli, he's the hero, he's the, you know, what we call in screenwriting the protagonist, like it's his story, and then suddenly it shifts and she's the main character, and he's like a side character, he's a supporting actor suddenly, and then she's gone, and both of them are, and Yotam becomes the main, you know, story. Like, the film ends with him going into the water. It starts with Eli in the water teaching a child to swim, and it ends with him being able to swim after everything he went through. So it's like a kind of a circle of life, kind of like a cycle of life, that they kind of take part of it. And for me, I mean, the relationship between them is between Yotam and Eli. It's not necessarily homoerotic, but it's also more than just friendship. I mean, I always define it, I always compare it to Sam and Frodo from Lord of the Rings. That's for me like the inspiration, and there are also all kind of secret Tolkien elements hidden in the film, like some in the costumes and some necklace and this, because it's a companionship. It's like men going to war against the world, against the childhood trauma, against the darkness of you know, bad things, domestic violence and abuse, and one has a mental injury and the other one has a physical injury, and so they have a relationship which is so profound and so strong that if there was something between them, maybe one day in the, you know, in the locker room of the swimming pool, you know, like the beginning of a bad porn movie. So, I mean, if it did happen, it's like a secret they have, you know. It's like their secret, and I let it be their secret. So that's why I didn't want to, you know, show more of that.
Well, one thing that's not a secret is that in your spare time, you are a chef, and you cook, and you teach cooking, and your husband is a florist and a landscape designer. And so I'm just interested about your enveloping your films in these creative passions and professional passions, but also the cinematography and the scenes in this are so much, these shots of Israel are just outstanding, and I don't know how it is that you've pulled together these passions.
I mean, food. I mean, I don't do. I mean, I used to teach cooking, and but I don't do it anymore. And I'm not a chef. I'm a cook. You know, there's a difference. I was never a chef, and I mean, I cooked professionally to earn money. I cooked, and it's a great passion for me. But I'm never not a chef, because a chef is something else. It's something different. It's a learned craft, and that's not my world. I just love. Add spices, you know. You know, I mean, the thing I like about all these elements, if it's the food or the nature or the flowers, of course, they relate to my life. So I know I look at those things and I say, okay, let's build a story around it because I love it. But the main reason is because these are crafts. Like, I really love craft. I really love when there is something that you do with your hand and it has a meaning, like cooking, kneading dough, you know. I mean, the dough, it looks like the human skin. It has so many meanings beyond just making bread. It has meanings that, you know, relate to your culture, to your heritage, to your childhood, to your roots, to your even social economic background. I mean, there's so many things related to cooking. And that's the same thing with flower and plants, and you know, the working with plants, working with flowers is one of the most, it is maybe the most ancient craft in the world. I mean, people used to plant things so they can survive. And later they found out the taste and the medicine in it. You know, in the plants they can heal, they can, you know, protect you from insects, some kind of insects. It can, you know, I mean, there are so many things related to that, to the power of plants and nature and our place as humans within that range. And that was something for me, like, very important for this film. It's like, for me, this is a film also about power of nature. Like, your thumb's healing, that's the human body. That's an incredible thing, which I, by the way, I researched it. Like, I did like a really big, you know, large and long research about coma and head injury and all of that, and it's just like, it's an amazing what happens. People who wake up from half a year of coma, and it takes them a year to, you know, to rehabilitate themselves, but then, you know, they can walk again and they can ride a bike again and suddenly become dancers and become, I mean, it's an incredible story that I've, you know, I've heard from people.
Amazing. We're going to do Q&A in just a moment. I just have one more question, which I wanted to just ask, because so your lead actress, of course, and Oshrat Ingedashet, trying.
Ingedashet.
Ingedashet. So she won the Jerusalem Film Festival Best Actress. She's largely known as a television actress. This was her first feature film. But what's more interesting to me is, originally, I understand that you actually cast Iris as a Ashkenazic girl, and that she was from an ultra-Orthodox family who fell into a punk scene in Jerusalem. So something happened. Tell us a little bit about the actress and your decision-making around that role. And then we'll open up for Q&A.
When I started to cast the role for you know, for the three of them, I was, you know, of course it is the most important thing, because everything I have to do in this film, eventually everything falls down because of the actor. If I'm taking the wrong actor, so casting is the most important, obviously. And she's carrying the movie. There is a point in the film where she kind of takes over it, and it's her movie. So finding Iris was the biggest challenge and the most important and profound one I've had in this film. And like you've said, I mean, I wrote it. I mean, the role, Iris, the character, was a girl from Mea Shearim, from the ultra-Orthodox, you know, parts of Jerusalem, who left her religion home when she was 15, and somehow lived her life until she started working in a flower shop, and that was the character. So obviously nothing to do with Ethiopian women. And then I saw Oshrat also in a movie, but in a very small role, like 2-3 minutes, and she stayed in my head. So I just added her to the list. When we do the casting, we have a casting director, and we were making a list of actors and actresses we want to see for all the roles. So for Iris, well, we had I think 35 or 40 actresses, and I said, okay, let's see this Oshrat, because my casting director, she worked with her before. And she said she's great, she's really comfortable to work with, which is the first thing I ask about actors, if they're normal people, you know, because some of them are not. And so she said she's great. She said, okay, let's invite her. And then it happened that she was the first person I saw. And every person I saw afterward, just, you know, I couldn't forget her. So I decided, so I casted her for the role. And we started to do a really deep process of getting to know each other. I do that with most of the actors, like when they're open to it. Sometimes they're not open to it, but when they're open to it, so, you know, we dive and we tell each other secrets, and we go, you know, we really need to find the character. And then as we did that, I started to ask her about, you know, her experience. And she told me how she's encountering the fact that she's black almost every day. Like, almost every day, someone reminds it to her in some way, you know. And Israel is a can be a very racist place, I gotta say. So I made some changes to the screenplay, very, very small ones, some additions, and consulted with her about it, and she loved the little changes I've added, and that's it. And we just, but all the time, I mean, for me, I always kept like saying this, I cast her because she was, the best actress. Like, that's why I took her. So, yeah.
Wonderful. So maybe we'll get a little bit of light in here. I see there's quite a few questions, and I'm going to start from the front up. So can I have the first question here, and I'll repeat it.
Okay, thank you. There was a conversation on the beach between Eli and Tom, about a childhood friend, his father worshiped Eli's father, of course, and there was a boy he meant to call or that he died. I felt like you left that story on the cutting room floor.
You left what?
Left the story on the cutting room floor. What is it about that story? Or is it?
Do you want to try to repeat the question just so that we can record it? Do you understand the question?
And
So it sounds like there is a scene in which conversation on the beach.
yeah. Mm-hmm. Cool. Yeah, cool.
Okay, so there was a story between a boy. Are you following this yet?
Yeah, I mean, it was just some story from childhood. Like they knew this kid, which was really annoying, and that's just they're talking about it because he saw him like a while ago, and he said, you don't know who I saw. I saw this the cool Yair, and so Eli says, oh, he was such an idiot, something like this. And then they start to talk about Eli's father. And I mean, Yotam asks him, did you speak with your father before he died? And he tells him, I didn't. That's what happens there.
We're gonna move on to the next question. Thank you.
Yeah, so one of the themes that really stood out to me throughout the film was this idea of childlike joy and freedom and how that can be lost in the pains and reality of life. And I especially saw that immediately between Eli and Yotam when they first go up to the creek and they have that boy-like relationship with each other, and it's so free. And throughout the film, I felt like we see in their body language and how they're communicating once they're safe and comfortable in their relationships with each other, they find that freedom. And I was just curious if you could talk a little bit about maybe if there was a message you were trying to communicate in that freedom and how it contrasts throughout.
So the question is about the Ellie and Yotam's relationship and the childlike freedom that they feel with each other, the joy, and is there some deeper message in it?
I mean, I think it's like a message about, when you're a child, so there is expectation of the world from you. Like when you look at a child, you think, what kind of a person are they going to be when they grow up? You can imagine. You can think about what kind of person he will be, what kind of profession will he do. It's this child is very lively and funny, or is he shy, or is he cute, or is he, crazy? And then he grows up and he becomes a different person with different values and different perspective and traumas and memories. And this gap between the child and the man, that's for me, like, I think it's the main theme of this film, because it's like Ellie is, he's always tight. He's always the button of his short is all, except two places: when he's in America, and when he's with his buddy, and that's because, like you said, this freedom, this safety. You said safety. That's so true. That's really so accurate that you've spotted that. Like this feeling of safe and light and easygoing was there, like with each other because they're children again.
Next question, moving up the stairs here. Go ahead in the back. I see two people together. You guys duke it out.
One comment, you touched upon this, but I so appreciate the way you write your women characters, and I so appreciate the way you showed her trauma from every day when somebody left that smart tooth there and said, "Can you clean up?" You know, that everyday microaggression that you talked about that happens to women, but especially to black women. To me, that added to that physical everyday trauma that women, or especially black women, have in a way that men don't. And I just, especially the relationship between the mom, Tom's mom and her, and how that changed. And she said she didn't really like it. She doesn't say why, but it's implied. But you can see how that changes. And as a female, I just thank you for doing what you're doing with your women characters.
It was a much nicer compliment than I'm going to translate, but it was, as a woman, really appreciated how you wrote for women, also especially the microaggressions and showing those in the character and how they had to deal with it, and really appreciated how you portrayed the character.
It looked like you, in the restaurant scene between Iris and Eli, you started a thread with the abusive father, and you put Eli into the bathroom with the abusive father, and then that was the end of the scene. So could you talk a little more about your intention there?
Can you repeat that one?
Yeah, I mean, you asked about the scene in the restaurant where there is a story with the father who is abusive to his child, and then Eli follows him to the bathroom, and we don't see what happens there. And the question was if I can tell a little bit more about that. I mean, I know what happened there, but that scene was from Erie's point of view. She was the one looking at this, and she doesn't know what happened there. She could only make an assumption, just like you can, just like the audience can. And I wanted to keep it like that. I felt it was much stronger to keep this question. I mean, you can ask yourself, did he beat him? Did he talk to him? Did he try to educate him? So I can also tell you that we had that scene, but we only shot that scene to fulfill the safety of production and sales people. But I knew I don't want to have that scene because it was stupid, just like hits him, So I remember when we had the first cut of the film, I called my editor and I told her, that scene in the bathroom, I don't want them to know it existed, And she said, of course I'm not going to put it. I know you, Ophir, because she edited also the CAKEMAKER. So it didn't interest me, and I find it much stronger and much more interesting that we don't know what happened there.
Get a little sausage factory on that one. So we just have time for a couple more questions. So Bryna up front, and are there any final questions in the back? Okay, and then Jessica, and I think, is that Cheryl? Great, okay, last three questions. Named you, Bryna.
Welcome to Seattle. I just want to say, people have different traumas that we don't know about, but the main three characters all had traumatic backgrounds. Her mother leaving, they all had so much in common that way, and I just felt that it was very unspoken. You left a lot of things unspoken in a good way. So I'm going with the theme that, Yotam is at peace with the fact that they were obviously, intimate together. Eli and Iris, and that he ultimately was at peace with that because he loved them so much. You know what I mean? That's what I'm going with.
So comment, and I don't know if it's a question, but maybe, is that the relationship between Yotam and Ellie and Iris was that Yotam found himself to be okay with that relationship in the end, and that there was so much unspoken? Did I get that? Okay. Yep. It's mostly for the recording.
Oh.
Yep.
It's just that he was at peace with that. That's what I'm going with.
Yep.
That's why I'm interpreting, just so you know, so we can capture it. I can pass the mic, but I can't make it up the stairs fast enough, so.
Yeah, I mean, yes, I mean, it's like, I mean, I want, for me, you know, there was so much love there, like, I don't judge any of this character. This was like my decision when I wrote the screenplay. I look, you know, all these people, and I had like one law. I'm not going to judge them for anything they do. And I wanted them not to judge each other. So they accept it, you know, they accept it. And when he knows that she was with her, he's a bit angry. He goes to the gym, you know, and he's like training. But he's like, you know, he tells her, you know, I'm glad for everything that had happened. And that's for me like beautiful. Okay, I'm not objective, it's my movie, you know. But for me, it's a beautiful and kind and mature act of a beautiful and kind and mature human being, and that's what I'm looking for, and that's what I love to tell. You know.
Healthy and positive. Jessica, go ahead. I see you in the back.
The urn and the sage. The urn is something that she finds in the garden, something under the roots, under the earth. She takes it out of the earth. And it's like going into someone's memory or going into someone's past and bringing outside to give it a new meaning. The sage is something that they shared when they went to the flower market, and he didn't even know what that is. He's like horrible with plants, and you know, has no idea. So he asked her, "What is it?" She told him that's sage, and that's like something they've had in a way. And then when she finds the urn, and he says, "You know, take it." It's like he said, like, "I don't want it. I don't want. It's a part of this house. I don't want it." In a way. So she puts the sage in it. And that sage keeps growing, you know, and growing and growing, and it will always remind her of him. And there are like hundreds of meanings behind that, of course, that I'm not telling, but I mean a lot of other things there.
Not a thoughtful filmmaker at all. What do you think? Cheryl, we're going to do last question and then we'll wrap. So just gratitude for the beautiful film that you've made, and tell us a little bit about the symbolism of the necklace.
And the necklace that Eli was wearing is the anchor of a ship. It's the symbol of Poseidon, the god of the sea. That was, you know, Eli was the god of the sea for me. I mean he kind of, in a way, water saved him, water killed him. He dedicated his life to water, he dedicated his life to saving people in the water. He saved Yotam from the water, even though in the first hour of the film, or let's say the first year of the story, it seems like he didn't save him, but in the end we find out he did. So he's like, water was his thing, and it really made him survive. So that's why he had to carry this with him.
So I just want to say that, you know, we've noticed a lot that filmmakers who have survived the turbulent times of the pandemic have actually in many ways produced some of their most beautiful work, and we know that you've thought through that. It's incredible that you followed up The CAKEMAKER with such an incredible film. So, and you made it despite the fact it was pre-vaccination when all of this was happening, so we just want to say thank you so much and appreciate the thoughtfulness and the beauty that you brought to the screen today. Thank you, and thank you everyone for coming, and we look forward to seeing you on the many Zooms, and this recording will be available. Thank you, Ofir Raul Graizer,
Thank
for
you
the
very
beautiful
much.
film.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Enjoy some cake and champagne.